Hello guys, we are on the fifth game in the Queenside pawn majority series. This game is played between Kostic and Grunfeld in 1922. The game goes d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, cd5, knight takes d5, e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3 and c5. Now knight f3, bishop g7, bishop b5 check, bishop to d7, bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, then castling shot. C takes d4, c takes d4, knight to c6, bishop e3, castle shot, and this position is declared by the theory to favor black. Now rook b1 and knight to a5, d5, and then rook fc8, and then bishop to d4, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, now b6, now knight to e5, queen to d6, queen to d6, and then knight to g4, queen to f4, knight to e3, and rook to c5. I'm sorry, rook to c5, and then rook bc1, and then rook ac8, rook takes c5, rook takes c5, and now f3, h5, g3, queen c7, e5, knight c4, knight takes, rook takes, then queen to e3, and then rook to c3, queen to d4, rook to c4, and then again queen to e3, then now rook to c2, now e6, queen c5, queen c5, then queen takes, rook d1, fe6, de6, rook a5, rook d2, king g7, f4, king f6, rook to e2, g5, fg5, king takes g5, now king g2, king f5, king f3, and here again black made himself master of the c file with his knight at a5, an effective post in connection with the jump to c4. The black again played for simplification in order to take advantage of the weakness that white had created for himself in the center. White has two pawns that requires support, and sooner or later he will fall into zugzwang, losing one of his pawns and the game. Now rook a3 check, king g2, rook a5, king h3, rook a4, rook b2, king takes e6, rook b5, rook takes a2, rook takes h5, rook b2, rook h8, a5, king g4, a4, rook a8, rook b4 check, king f3, b5, h4, king f6, g4, rook b3 check, king e4, a3, rook a6 check, king g7, king f5, b4, rook a7, rook f3 check, king e4, rook f2, king e3, and rook b2. And now white resigned. The queenside majority by itself may be of little relevance in the middle game, it only becomes a dynamic force when coupled with other advantages, such as the initiative or superior piece positioning. Moreover, the timing of the advance of the queenside pawns require great care. This actual advance has frequently to be held over while the necessary preparations are being made, and these, together with the exploitations of other advantages, for example open lines, take priority. On the other hand, in an endgame, the queenside majority may become a potent force in itself. In a king and pawn ending, it is often decisive. So with this, we conclude our queenside pawn majority series, and next we will be looking at the queenside attack series. Thank you.